Welcome to the Dark Side Revelations podcast. I am Jonathan, that is Alex, and today we are doing a deep dive into the Jedi. This is a two-part episode series where today we are talking about the Jedi as a culture and of the religion, and next week we are going into the history and the specific people of the Jedi. Um, but before we get into anything about the Jedi, we have some big Star Wars news to talk about. A StarWars.com article was released last Tuesday that said that there is a Mandalorian movie happening, and the name is The Mandalorian and Grogu. It's going into production this year. It's produced or it's directed by Jon Favreau and produced by Jon Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, and Dave Filoni. I am really excited for this movie, and it was an unexpected announcement. How about you, Alex?
I am very excited. I really like the Mando series, like just the TV shows, and the amount of time that they've been able to take to build the characters and build the universe around Mando.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're now getting a movie with like an actual budget is like really exciting for me.
Yeah. Um, I have a few things I want to talk about with this movie. There's a lot of questions. We don't know a lot about this movie or the other Mandoverse projects surrounding it. But what I want to talk about first is, will it be successful? Will people actually go to the movie theater after having access to it essentially for free, right? It was a subscription they're already paying for. Will they go to the movie and pay $20, $25 per person to go watch it? Or will they wait for it to come out on Disney Plus?
So it's kind of like I have 2 points on the opinion here. I guess three. Number one is yes, people are going to watch it solely because it's a Star Wars movie and we haven't had one in so long. Right? People are just going
Okay,
to go to the
yeah.
movie theater and experience the movie because it's a movie, because it's box office. It's the whole different feel, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot different than sitting on your couch and watching the show for an hour. Uh, but the other point that I was going to bring up is there's been a lot of speculation as to what Disney Plus is going to look like in the future because Disney just keeps losing money
Yeah,
all over the place on
definitely.
that thing. And there's been rumors. I don't know if it's official, but sometime this year, Disney Plus looks like it's going to change. And depending on that change, that could drive more people to go and see the movie as
Hmm.
opposed to just waiting for it to come on to Disney Plus. I mean, whatever happens, it will go on to the Disney streaming service, whatever it ends up being.
Yeah. I
But I
I
also
have
think that sorry.
I was gonna say I have seen. I'm pretty sure they're going at doing ads this month. Excuse me, and they're doing an ad tier, which probably, if I had to guess, is going to be whatever subscription they have now is going to turn the ads, and you have to pay more. Um,
Yeah.
I didn't even consider that. Yeah.
It's like, what does Disney have to advertise for other than themselves? Like, how are they losing money on Disney Plus?
Yeah.
Millions of people use it. Honestly, the only reason that I have it is for Star Wars.
I
So I don't have to buy
yeah.
all the movies and somehow buy the shows.
What is the spending that they're doing on their own
I don't
property
know.
that's
I
making them? I mean,
they
there's obviously operational costs, but that's not millions of people
no.
cost. It's their own IP.
Yeah. It's their own IP. They put stuff away, they take it out, and it's all them. It's not any kind of deal they have. It's not like the stupid Spider-Man
Yeah,
nonsense
I didn't think about
with
that. Yeah.
Sony.
They're
Like,
just paying
what does
all of their
Disney have to
profits to Sony.
advertise for? They just want more
Yeah,
money.
probably. It's probably a narrative. Let's be honest about them losing money.
Yeah. They're probably it's yeah, you're absolutely right.
What was your second point you had?
The second point that I had is this is how normal, I'm gonna say not the followers of Star Wars like we are, right? This is how like the regular person consumes Star Wars is by watching the movies.
Yeah.
So when there's a Star Wars movie that comes out, people who aren't hardcore fans will go and watch it just because they have big budgets and like they're honestly good action movies.
Yep.
And the way that Disney and Marvel have progressed with all their CGI and their action scenes, and the way that the Mandalorian has portrayed the action scenes that they've been able to get away with in the series. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do with movie level budget, not just TV show budget.
Yeah, a bigger budget is gonna make it crazy, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if people will go to this movies. Um, I do understand that, yeah, it is a Star Wars movie. That's probably gonna be the main driving factor. There hasn't been a Star Wars movie for a while. By 26 when this comes out, right? Um, so I think there'll be a driving factor. But I do actually want to bring up one more point about this. Is I wonder if they'll do a different kind of release. If they'll bring it to the theaters and then similar to the Eras Tour movie, will they make it just rentable for a while and then maybe rentable and buyable and then bring it to Disney Plus? You know, do like 3 phases, trying to get people to spend
Mm-hmm.
money on their movie because you obviously don't have that release on Blu-ray and DVD anymore that you can do.
Right.
So maybe I was wondering if they'll do the renting first, buying later, and then onto Disney Plus.
Yeah, because the standard form that Disney has followed is, what they release the movie, and then they wait for it to go out of the movie theaters, and then they
Yeah.
wait some sort of a minimum of at least 3 more months, and then they'll put it onto Disney Plus. And if I'm not mistaken, you can pay to have the earlier access to the movie, kind of like in that rentable format,
Mm-hmm.
where you pay like $5 and you get it early, or you just
Okay.
wait another week and then you have it. But it really brings up the point of, are people going to know what's going on? If they
Oh
don't
yeah.
have Disney Plus already, do they know who the Mandalorian is other than seeing him in stores and like the Mandalorian and Grogu being like the number one selling toy that
Yep.
they've had for a long time? Are they going to want to know the backstory, or are they just going to go into it like it's a new movie?
Mm-hmm.
And like, what is Disney going to do about that, right? Are they going to take the first 20 minutes of the movie and kind of like recap what happened in the shows, or are they just going to jump right in?
That's a good point. Um, hmm. I I almost wonder if they'll just do instead of obviously no matter what they do, there will be parts of the movie that people won't recognize unless you've watched this show, right? Obviously,
Right.
there's gonna be those moments, right? I almost wonder if they'll go away from they'll just go on their completely own adventure. You know how they have a couple episode arcs where they'll go and classic Mandalorian, they'll go kill a monster and then come back and get the reward or whatever. I wonder if they'll
Mm-hmm.
just do that. Right? There'll be no overarching or not a lot of overarching story to the rest of the show, but it's just a story about the Mandalorian and Grogu following. I don't believe this movie's gonna wrap up the Mandoverse. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Um, but I think they'll just do their own adventure. Obviously, they'll have some characters for the people that have watched it, but I think it'll just be its own separate adventure. Just giving a movie to the Mandalorian and Grogu.
Mm-hmm. So does that mean you think that season four, Mando season four, is still going to happen, or are we getting this instead?
I do. I don't know. I really don't know about Mando season 4. Um, I saw articles saying that they had written the script for Mandalorian season 4 already. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then after the strikes, they reconsidered doing just a movie. And there's
Mm-hmm.
no reliable source. There has been people saying both ways. I hope there's a Mandalorian season 4. Um, there's obviously if they're gonna use this a script from that they were or parts of a script they would have written for the show, they wouldn't need until 2026 to release their movie unless they're not going for that 2026 date anymore, like they announced the celebration. They said their first movie would come out in 2026. They wouldn't need that if they were to. That would be like if they started writing a script now, I would think. You know?
No, because the movies just take longer to produce. Period. Like they could turn a show around in like a little over a year and a half, but I'm pretty sure the minimum for a movie that isn't garbage is like 2.5 years.
Okay.
And because Daisy Ridley, who plays Ray, has talked about it a little bit in some interviews where most of their filming takes roughly like 6 months, and then they do post production stuff, and that can take 6 months, almost a year, depending
Yep.
on what it is and what level of CGI they work into it and how much live action stuff they do and like on location filming. Um, I think I think 2026 is a reachable date for this movie, but they also didn't, correct me if I'm wrong. They also didn't say that this movie is coming out in 2026.
Okay, they didn't. They said the first movie would come out in 2026, but they did not say this would be the first movie. But they did say I don't have the article pulled up. They did say that this would take the lead on their ongoing slate of development or something similar to that. That this movie is going to take the lead of all of their production, which would
So it
imply that this
sounds
would
like it
be the
got
next
bumped to
movie
the
to come
front of the
out.
list.
It does.
Okay.
And um, wait, before I move on, before I move on to the next point, do you want to say anything about this season 4, or do people know the show enough, or they do the
Uh,
show?
my thing is if it doesn't, so here's what I think. It's going to come out in 2026, which means that we won't get season 4 until after this movie is released
Oh, you think
because they're
season 4
not
is
going
gonna
to.
go after?
I think so because
Oh,
what I think they're doing with this movie, going off how season 3 ended, is they're going to build Din and Grogu. They're going to take that uh, the clan of two that they are, and they're going to build that. That's going to be this movie,
mm,
and then they don't have time to do all the things that they want to do, like they can do with the shows, where you can go and fill all these very intricate little plot holes, but they can also take the timeline in a movie and make it so that they jump from when I'm going to call it when Grogu is a toddler and he still can't really talk. I'm hoping that they take this movie and jump 5, maybe 10 years to the point that Grogu actually speaks. And that would be
yeah,
like the coolest thing ever.
yep,
And honestly, like that's one of the things that I've always wondered is, are they going to let him talk?
yep.
Because he has to
I
eventually. He's
do
not
you
going
think?
anywhere.
Do you think Din? Well, okay. I thought that season 4 would come out before, but with you going after, do you think Din? I was gonna say in the movie would die in the movie or in the season 4, whatever comes last for the Mandalorian series.
See, I don't think he's going to get killed off. So I
No.
think he's got some pretty solid plot armor, unlike the guys from the Bad Batch. Um, I will say that whenever, because like ultimately what they're working towards is like restanding up Mandalore and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I think when that's done, he's not going to stick around. But I don't think that he's going to die on screen. I think
Okay.
they're just going to leave it.
Just he's gone, but he's not actually dead.
Yeah, like I think they're going to build up his clan of two, and then Grogu's going to find what his future is, right? Whether it's
Yep.
living on Mandalore or doing something else. And we're not going to care about Din anymore. It's only going to be about Grogu.
Because okay. Because the reason I bring this up. Okay. We have two more Filoni projects. It was confirmed that Ahsoka season 2 in this article is coming out. Okay.
Yes.
Exciting. Very exciting. And
Yes.
they actually released a sketch a few days ago, one of Filoni's sketches of Ahsoka and Sabine standing on the hand of the father statue, or the hand of the father statue that we saw at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the show.
Yeah, where
Um,
Balin was standing.
yeah, where Balin was. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also another. There's the Filoni. This is not the Filoni movie. Okay, the Filoni movie's still happening. Filoni is still directing his own movie. Um, this is Jon Favreau's. This movie wasn't announced at Celebration. This kind of seems like it was thrown in. I would assume not last minute because they're already announcing it, but it was thrown in after Celebration, right? People thought it was weird that Filoni wasn't there for the next Mandoverse movie, or sorry, that Favreau wasn't there for the Mandoverse
Mm-hmm.
movie, but not so out of the ordinary. Ordinary, no, he's a lot bigger than Filoni, obviously. But so now we have this movie, but we still have Filoni's movie, which is why I bring up. Do you think Din would die? Because I don't know if he's gonna be in the Filoni movie. I
I think if he does die, it's going to be in the Filoni movie. It's not going to be in this next one. John isn't going to kill him off. It's going to be Dave. It's going to be Dave that decides. All right, Mando is over.
it,
Kill him off.
I don't
Right?
think
Because
he
he's in
might
that
have like
position now.
he might have a cameo, but I don't think he's gonna be like a character in the movie because he has his own movie, right? He has his own movie right now.
Right.
I think Filoni's gonna focus more on Ahsoka and Rebels and Thrawn and wrap up that storyline.
Yeah, because
What do
that's
you
what we
think?
think. Then that's what I think the Filoni movie is going to do. It's going to, like classic Dave fashion. It's going to take all of these pieces and it's going to put them all together. Right. It's going to be
Yeah,
Ahsoka.
but
It's going to be Mando. Hopefully, Acolyte somehow gets thrown in there. Right.
yep,
Um, and then what was the other one?
Rebels.
The other show? No, not Rebels. The pirate show.
Oh, Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, Skeleton Crew. Hopefully that gets thrown in there too.
But I, I don't know. I am not convinced that the Mandalorian will show up. I don't think we're gonna see much of Din in Filoni's movie.
I think you're right. I
Cause
think he's going to be a support character for sure if he shows up at all.
yeah, cause why would he have his own movie and then show up in another movie following him with some side characters of Ahsoka and Sabine and Hera and everything? You know.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's going to be the
Ooh, I just
Ahsoka and
thought of
Sabine
this.
show
I,
for
I
sure.
wonder. I wonder if what's Hera's kid's name will have a bigger storyline in the Filoni movie
Oh, that'd be cool.
because we'll have
Yeah, I
Ahsoka
don't
season 2 by
remember his
then, so
name.
maybe he'll actually be like a real character. You know?
And he's clearly force sensitive, right?
Yeah,
Like
obviously.
Kanan
Yeah,
was. So maybe
yeah,
there's some potential there for him and Grogu to kind of get together and
yeah.
not necessarily be Jedi's, but be the force wielders for good,
Yep.
I'll call it.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Grogu was a big character in the Filoni movie, but they might Din and Grogu very well could split and they go on their own adventures by the end of season
That's
4 or the
true.
movie. So
I do
yeah,
think though that the only way that they'll split is if Din dies.
really, you don't think he'll find another calling?
I don't think that he'll. I don't think that he. And I'm talking about Grogu. I don't think that he's gonna go it alone after everything that he sacrificed to be with Din.
Okay, that's fair.
So I think the only way that he's going to leave and do something else is if and when Din dies. Because Din's not horribly old. I would put him late 30s, early 40s, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, Grogu's still an infant and he's at this point like 55 years old or something like that.
I hope that Grogu has a play in the Rey movie, building the Jedi Order. That would be pretty cool.
That would be very cool.
He would
That
have
would
to
be
have some. He would
very
have to
cool.
have some vocal stuff by then, though. You know, be more developed
Yeah,
than he is now.
but he also, like, when you look back into, I think it was season 2 of Mando, where he actually talked with Ahsoka using the Force, right? He
Oh
didn't.
yeah, yeah.
They used that
Oh yeah, his name is
telekinetic.
Grogu.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, his name's Grogu." It's like, how did you know that? I'm like, "Well, he told me." Like, so maybe it's more stuff like that, right?
yeah. Um, do you have anything last you want to add about the Mandalorian, Grogu, or Ahsoka?
Other than I'm really excited to see what the movie is, and very excited for Ahsoka season 2. Ahsoka season 1 is probably my favorite Star Wars product to come out in the last probably 6 or 7 years,
Wow.
and that's really saying something. It just beautiful
Yeah.
script, perfect casting. They they told the story that they needed to tell, and they did it very, very well.
Um. Okay. Cool. We have one small last piece of news to report on, which is new Young Jedi Adventure episodes coming out on Valentine's Day. Does not sound very big compared to what we just talked to, but that was announced.
That is why we saved it for the end.
Okay, let's get into the main topic, which is deep diving into the Jedi. We're gonna start off with just the Jedi religion as a whole. So, Alex,
Mm-hmm.
let's hear some information about the Jedi religion.
Okay, so I want to start with the Jedi religion by just saying something about like the source that I've gathered this information from. Um, it's not how we normally collect information, where we go through Wikipedia, read the books, go through the comics and stuff like that. the Jedi or Jediism or Jedism. I'm not entirely sure how to say it. So if I offend someone out there, I'm sorry. Um, has been an actual organized, recognized religion since roughly 2001. Um,
Really?
and the information that I'm about to give you is from, I have it from templeofthejediorder.org, which is one of the resources that you can go to if you're interested in learning about the Jedi religion. You can even join the Jedi religion. I don't personally know how to do it, but the resources on this website, that's one of the things that they've built in here. And everything that's in, I'm reading from the doctrine area, is what they accept as doctrine. It's what's doctrine in legends and canon throughout all of Star Wars universe. So I don't have dates or anything like that. It's literally just what is the actual Jedi religion. So what do they believe? Their tenets, their code, stuff like that. Um, so one more fun fact before I get into the details. Uh, if you are a member of the military, you can actually designate yourself as a member of the Jedi religion and receive Jedi religious benefits upon your death or something like that. And I know this for a fact because one of the guys that I work with, he has gone through the process to get the military to recognize him as a Jedi, a follower of the Jedi religion. So I just thought that was
Cool.
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 Um, so I'm going to read straight from the doctrine of the order here. Jediism is a religion based on the observance of the Force, which is a ubiquitous and metaphysical power that a Jedi believes to be the underlying fundamental nature of the universe. Jediism finds its roots in philosophy similar to those presented in the epic space opera called Star Wars, and it is a religion in and of itself. Um, there has also been very linear uh, connections between what a Jedi believes and traditional Buddhism. I'm not going to go into all the lines, but if you want to research Buddhism for yourself, you can see the similarities. It's pretty cool to see. So, the Jedi believe in the Force and the inherent worth of all life in it, the sanctity of a human person, in a society governed by laws grounded in reason and compassion, a society that does not discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation or circumstances of birth, such as gender, ethnicity, and national origin. So there you go, guys. Being a Jedi is LGBTQ plus. Uh, Jedi believe in the ethic of reciprocity and how moral concepts are not absolute, but can vary by culture, religion, and over time. They believe in the positive influence of spiritual growth and awareness on society, the importance of freedom and of conscience and self determination, and in the separation of religion and government and the freedoms of speech, association, and expression. All right. So now I'm not going to be reading from a script anymore. Um, so there's so the Jedi have the three tenets, the code, the creed. There's 16 teachings and 21 maxims. And the easiest way to think of it is the further you go in the Jedi as an organization or as a religion, the farther down the list you go. So the three tenets of the Jedi are focus, knowledge, and wisdom. Focused is the art of pruning the irrelevant and pouring the best of your mind into what you are doing. Knowledge can be acquired by focusing on the task at hand, and wisdom is the sound application of accrued knowledge and experience through patient, good judgment. So, when you think about what a Jedi does, they basically take those three tenets and apply it to everything that they can possibly do, right? Like when somebody asks, the only thing I can think of is the High Republic book right now. But when someone asks the Jedi, "Hey, can you help me with this?" Like, cool, I need to meditate on it, right? That's what they're going through. They're thinking, you know, can I use my focus? Is my best ability going to be put forth into what I'm about to do? Do I have the knowledge required to do that? Do I have the wisdom to apply my knowledge and my skills with good judgment to help what's going on? I just I like how simple that is, honestly. Just they're just the force for good, and that's all it is. And it's not just we help everyone, it's we help everyone when we can.
Yeah.
So like you said when we were doing the history of the Sith, the Jedi also have a code. And if you go through the histories of the Jedi, it changes over the years, but essentially there's like one or two versions that kind of always stay the same. And to keep it close to the one that we did for the Sith episode, it says, there is no emotion, there is peace. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no passion, there is serenity. There is no chaos, there is harmony. There is no death, there is the force. And I really like that last piece where it says, there is no death, there is the force, because it brought me back to, I mean, we could talk about it because you finished the book. Um, book 2 of the High Republic.
Should we? Do we put a
Yep,
spoiler warning for which book?
Spoiler warning. It's the shoot. I don't have it.
The second
Give me
one.
a second.
What's it called?
Yeah, it's book 2 of the High Republic.
The
series.
Rising Storm. High Republic. The Rising Storm by Cavan Scott. The second book in the mainline High Republic series. Skip ahead if you want to read it and you haven't yet, and we're about to spoil it.
All right, so here's the spoiler. When Padawan Bell loses his master, when he gets taken, I guess is the best word for it.
Okay.
In Bell's eyes, he thought he died, right?
Yep.
So he kept looking for him in the living force, that's what brings it back to that doctrine there where it says there is no death, there is the force. When they die, they become part of this living force, and Bell couldn't find him. Yeah. And he was losing his faith because of it. Like his master should be able to find him like that.
Yep.
And he couldn't. And for the longest time, he was struggling with his belief. He was shutting himself off from the force. And they go on a mission, and lo and behold, his master is there. Loden Greatstorm is waiting for him on this planet, and he gets renewed again, only to have
please
only to have his master be turned into ashes in front of his eyes.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was pretty traumatic. I was very upset.
They were so happy.
I know.
He's like, oh man, my master's here. Oh,
and
God.
If you guys don't want to read the book, that's fine. The whole book is setting up this huge catastrophic event. It kind of feels like everyone is just getting slammed to the ground no matter what. Mass decimation on scales that no one had seen before. And this is like the first really good thing that happens, right?
Yeah. It was a very negative book
reunited
all around.
And it's like I want to say it was like 30 pages maybe. He's got his master back, and then he's gone, just like that.
The last page, he gets turned to ash.
Yeah, it's literally the last thing that happens.
They just end the book there.
They walk up, they touch him,
they just end the book.
To ash. And then the book ends. And then, of course, the next book in the series isn't even about that.
Oh, I have it with... Oh, I don't have it actually right next to me, but...
It's called Tempest Runner. I have it over here.
It's on the floor next to me, but... Yeah,
it was... we're going to go in and do some book reviews eventually once we finish this 4-book series.
Yeah.
But I liked how it brought in there is no death, there is the force, and how you could see them using that in the books.
Yeah, and even like just in any battle we've seen them in these books, like, oh, I felt that in the force. I felt them move in the force, anytime, even if it wasn't a Jedi, right? If it was just a Nihil dying, like, oh, there it is.
Yep. So the Jedi also have a creed, and it's adopted from actual religion. It's adopted from the prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi. I think that's how you say it. Um, it the creed basically goes, where there's hatred, I bring love. If there's injury, I pardon. If there's doubt, I bring faith. If there's despair, I bring hope. If there's darkness, I bring light. And there's more to it, but it's I will, with all of my power, seek to find those that need help or those that need light and be that light. It's not just we're going to go around and lightsaber slash everyone we find.
Yeah.
It's we're going to go help everyone that we can any way that we can.
And
Um,
another thing about the books that kind of falls into this is I
mhm.
don't know if they don't portray in the movies, or I just forgot about it or missed it, but they don't want to kill like anyone. They do
No,
everything in their power not to escalate the situation and to not have to kill anyone that they come in contact with. But usually it does end up like that.
and even like when the main battle's happening in that second book, one of the Jedi Masters chooses not to kill someone so that they can have that balance, and it turns out to backfire on them more than once, because when the one master chose not to kill someone, that person ended up killing one of the other Jedis, and like a crowd of people that happened when they like crashed their ship into him.
It also like just when when the big event happens in the second movie. Now that we're past or in the second book. Now that we're past the spoiler section of this of the
Mm-hmm.
podcast, when that big event happens, um, it's like when they're fighting, they're like, oh yeah, I'm fighting as a Jedi, like I'm trained. I'm just disarming, right? Whether that was cutting off an arm or a hand or just whacking or like slicing a blaster or whatever it was. There was excuse me, there was a lot of disarming and not a lot of killing.
Yeah. So the main thing that we see as the religion of the Jedi is the 16 teachings. And I'm not going to get into every single one of them just so that we can not spend 3 hours talking about everything. But the first one is the Jedi feel the Force, right? To be an actual Jedi in Star Wars, you have to be a Force able person. So they feel the living balance, the living Force. They know the the cosmic whisper, I guess is the way to put it. Um, to be in balance, the Jedi practice clarity of mind, and that's where a lot of meditation and contemplation comes in. Just that they always have to have a clear and level head, um, and because of that, they maintain a clarity of awareness that all events are interconnected. So the cause of one thing may be very well a chain reaction of something else, and this is when the Jedi will respond, um, if the Force wills it, right?
Yeah.
They can hope for things to come, but they are very well aware that they don't control circumstances; they control reactions, right? Uh, the big, the big teaching, which is the fourth teaching, that we see the most problem with in the first three movies, is the Jedi practice non-attachment, maintaining an awareness that the cycles of creativity and renewal in the Force give rise to phenomena as others pass away. So what that means is they're not supposed to go out and marry someone. They're not supposed to go and have these relationships. They are supposed to trust in the Force that the Force will maintain the Jedi Order if it is supposed to be maintained.
And
And
it's not
that's
even
where
just relationships. It's like a attachment to possessions and stuff too.
right. Yep. Yep.
Anything that can cause the fear of being lost.
Right. And the Jedi believe that, we're all beings of thought. We're all sentient, and you're supposed to dedicate yourself to learning and practice humility. One of the biggest things is they They foster an acceptance of limitations. You can do what you can, you can try to do what you can't, but if you can't, the Force will find a way to fill the gap, right? And going along with that, the Jedi practice patience, which some can argue is their downfall in the movies, right? They're just
Yeah.
kind of waiting to see maybe this whole Sith thing is going to blow over in the Senate. Guess
Yeah.
not. Um, and the biggest thing about being a Jedi is maintaining your integrity or individuated wholeness. Um, that's one of the biggest things that separates a Jedi from just a normal person and being a Sith is that they have true intentions and they stick to those intentions. Um, there's the Jedi are all devoted to learning, as we'll talk about later. They once they get to a certain rank, they can go and choose to learn something of their own volition, but they also just have to continuously grow regardless, which is why Yoda was regarded as one of the most powerful and knowledgeable Force users to ever exist because he had the longest time to play with it.
Solid 850 years.
Yep. Um, they practice living in universal compassion, understanding phenomena of their environment, meaning they have compassion for everyone and they can go into a situation and see, okay, is this just? Is this unjust? Do I need to step in here? Or is this a society filling both sides of a role that doesn't need any outside intervention? Um, they are supposed to have unconditional love and compassion to everything and everyone. That goes back to they don't want to kill anything, right? That's why it takes such a toll on them when they have to, and they have to cultivate empathy with others. It's like when they do kill someone in the Force, they feel it for a long time, and as the High Republic books do a very good job, the Jedi's are very affected by their environment, and when they do kill someone, they feel it, and all the other Jedi's feel it because they
Yeah.
know that to some small degree they broke their code. They ascended one of the teachings, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's got a few more. They seek to return balance to that which has become tumultuous, which is where when they find Anakin, when Anakin gets brought before the council and say, he's the chosen one, he's the one that's going to bring balance. This is what we think, right? They're like, cool. Everyone's like, yeah, we need to take care of this, right? But then Yoda's like, okay, hold on, I have all this experience. Let me use it here for a second. This is too good to be true. But you can train him anyway because he is the
But
chosen one. Because
he's still an
ultimately, what
attack the
they
Jedi.
sought was balance.
He has all the experience and was like, yeah, it's not true. But he didn't know there was a temple right under him right then when he was speaking.
So, I mean, the more that we go into the history and the stories and everything, I feel like they did know because at some point the Jedi went down there and tried to cleanse it and
Mm.
like unmask it, but essentially it didn't work, and they thought it did.
Okay. They did think a lot of things happened when they did not.
Mm. There's got to be something in here about the Jedi just kind of being like, "Well, we fixed that. Don't have to see that again." Um, so this is where the 15th teaching is Jedi realize that all phenomena, include that of life itself, arise from and dissolve back into the cycles of creation and renewal of the Force. So they should have seen their downfall coming to some extent, right? And we do see this being prepared for in the later, like when I talk about some of the artifacts later. They've had a they've had a contingency plan for eons, but in their hubris, I guess, they didn't plan on it being so soon, or
Yeah.
they didn't see anything coming because you could almost argue they're too optimistic. They're too focused on what good can happen as long as they put good in. Um, the the final teaching is Jedi must have the deepest commitment and the most sincere soul, which that's where they don't get upset when someone leaves the order because their heart's not in it anymore. Like we saw that with Count Dooku, where he rose to the rank of master. I don't remember exactly if he had a seat on the council or not, but he ultimately he wasn't in it anymore, so he left, and they're
Yeah.
okay with that. Or there's some Padawans where they get into it, and there's like this just isn't for me, and
Ahsoka.
yeah, so and Ty Yorick from the High Republic series.
Yep.
She's another one that just like stuff has happened to me, and this isn't for me anymore, and they don't hold it against them, but they do hold record of who was in the
Yeah.
order, so that honestly, when it comes to bite them in the butt later, they can prove,
Yeah.
hey, we taught this person this. They're supposed to be a good person. And there's 21 different maxims. I'm not going to go into all that, but if you guys want to look it up, it's called Temple of the Jedi Order.org. It is a international organization. It is a respected religion. I don't know how many countries view it as an actual religion, but I know that the United States and Australia is among them,
So,
and that's
should we go to the closest Jedi church on Sunday?
I would love to, just out of pure curiosity.
Yeah, what happens?
Like I honestly I want to dig into this more and see what it
Yeah.
means, and I also know that they have like the ranks that we're going to talk about. It is how their church is
Oh,
set
wait,
up.
really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, so I guess we should go into some ranks then. Um, so well, if you watched a few episodes, what was that? Episode 2 when we went into the Sith. Um,
Yep.
there are some similarities between them because they are pretty similar, organizations because they would obviously follow the same force and lightsaber crap. But um,
Yeah.
we start off with the younglings or initiatives. Um, either name is fine for them, and they are children that have been recruited by the Jedi Order but have not started training yet. They are in school and learning about the Jedi ways. And before they can advance, they need to pass a series of trials first. And once they pass that series of trials, they go and become Padawans. And we know a lot about these, so I don't want to talk a lot about them, but they are younglings that have been taken on as an apprentice by a Jedi Knight or Jedi Master. And traditionally, the Master would choose an apprentice, but during the Clone Wars, they just got assigned. Um, um, yeah, that so there was less of a connection there to start, but obviously it grew as they were together longer. And then after you're a Padawan, you graduate into a Jedi Knight, which there are also trials to you have to complete to become a Jedi Knight. And these are and these are higher trained Padawans, and they can take on their own apprentice if approved by the Jedi Order. Um, but at this point, they are not able to pursue their own studies on their own terms. They haven't gained that freedom yet. Like you said, they're a very knowledge-driven group of people, but they did have a little bit. They did have a little bit of choice. There are 3 paths of study they would be able to go into. Um, I'm gonna butcher these names, and Alex, you can feel free to correct me if I'm saying them horribly. Um, there's the consular, the guardian, and the sentinel. What does that say? Sentinel. I
Consular,
don't know.
consular, guardian, and sentinel.
Consular, guardian, and sentinel. We'll go with that.
Yep.
These paths are canon, but the details are legends, and there's a YouTube short about that. If you don't know the difference between canon and legends, go watch it at DS Revelations on TikTok and YouTube.
Yep.
The first one, I forgot council or we're going they're diplomats. You know what these are these are non-violent force users. Um, they wanted to they want to calm situations with reasoning before resorting to the lightsaber. Very few of them actually use their lightsaber like ever. Um, they usually had green Kyber crystals, and we'll get into that a little bit later. It's um, and they had each of these three paths of study have lots of different. I remember. I think they're called like I don't remember their.
You just
Oh,
call them
they're called roles,
subcategories, honestly.
roles or something like that.
Roles.
Um, one of the most common ones for this group was a Jedi healer. They had compassion for life. That's why they didn't want to use their lightsaber, right? They wanted, and that's why they were diplomats. It's because so obviously with that compassion, a lot of them were Jedi healers. Um, there, this one had the most amount of roles. There's like 16 different roles, and I did not want to get into all of them. But I picked one more, which is the complete opposite of a Jedi healer, which is a Jedi sage. These Jedi sages, they use the Force in combat in weird ways, like ripping your enemy apart. They still didn't use a lightsaber, and they still used focus on the Force, but they went into a combat route. Um, I was just, reading about this peaceful group of Jedi, and boom, here's this people that rip their enemies apart with the Force.
I love it.
And then the next one is the Guardian. These are the opposite. They are lightsaber combat driven. These are warriors who know all the ways you can use your lightsaber and how to fight with them. They often had a blue crystal, and there was a lot less roles. There were pilots, instructors, which would teach the lightsaber combat, exotic weapon specialists, and peacekeepers, which would go around to different planets and solve some issues with Force.
So would the Guardian, would that be like the most populous of the three?
Yeah, definitely. Um, I I would say High Republic's on our mind right now because we're reading the High Republic. So sorry if you have no clue who we're talking about. But I would say they would be the Guardians that would be on the outposts on the Outer Rim planets. I would say those are Guardians, right? Sure. Or just the Clone Wars isn't a good example because everything went out the window during the Clone Wars. But these are just your classic. I think these would be the Jedi you think of, right? The Peacekeeper Guardians would be the Jedi you think of when you think of a Jedi, just fighting with their lightsabers, stopping conflict through Force. And then the final category that Jedi Knights can study is Sentinel. These are a combination of both these schools. This was not whenever these schools were created. This one was not created at that time. This was created a lot later when they had people that wanted to do both fields of study. They are changed in combat and in the Force, but they also had a big aspect of training in non-Force related skills. They rarely used lightsabers, but when they did, they were generally yellow. We will get into that later. So they had the yellow lightsaber was a very low amount of people that were Sentinels because they were the Temple Guards, and there was not many people that went into Temple Guards out of the group out of that group of Jedi. It also has artisans who would build lightsabers and holocrons. I would like to learn about that process, honestly. That'd be pretty cool. How do you build a holocron? Not about a lightsaber. We kind of know a lot about that. But how do you make a holocron, right? They had recruiters who would obviously, they would recruit Jedi and younglings and do all that. Investigators.
Those are the people that sought out the Force users.
Yes,
they're not like standing out on the street like,
no,
come
they are
join
not.
the Jedi. It's like, no, guess what? You have midichlorians. Do you want to join us?
Yeah. Do you know much about that process? Like how they discovered the Force sensitive younglings?
Honestly, they do a pretty good job of showing it in the movies where they find someone. Like obviously Qui-Gon wasn't a recruiter, but he knew how to do it, right? He assessed the child. He clearly saw that he had abilities to use the Force. He had a midichlorian test because for the Jedi, essentially there was like a base level where if you had this much midichlorian in your body, you were an effective Force user. And like how they talk about in Ahsoka is a lot of it is skill, but some of there's a good portion of it that's
Yeah.
if you were just more imbued with the Force, you're better at using it.
Yeah.
But what would happen is these Sentinels and members of the Council would meditate and they would reach out through the Force to these different worlds, and they would essentially feel the the children that are Force sensitive. Like if you watch, there's the Disney Plus show where they go into like the Jedi stories. They show
Tales
Ahsoka
of the
being
Jedi.
chosen. No, not Tales. Not the not the kids show. It's the
No, that's not the kids. That's the like. No, that's not the kids show. That's like where. That's a
is that the one where they
like
go into
they're
like
like
Dooku and
15-minute
everything?
episodes. They like show
Yeah.
Ahsoka using the
Yep,
Force to
that's the
tame
one.
the beast and
Yep,
yeah,
yep. It's that. It's Tales of the Jedi then, because
yeah,
they go after she does that. There's a Jedi that shows up like the next day,
yeah.
right?
I guess.
Where it's like once
um,
you use the magic, you're marked, but
uh,
they can also
Harry
just find
Potter.
them. Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah. Um, where was okay? I'm gonna go into a couple more roles of the Sentinels, and this uses some of their non-force skills as the investigators who would solve crimes with the local law enforcement on a planet. Um, and then there was shadows who were like upgraded investigators um, who would one of their main things they did was hunt dark side users, um, but they also would like they were like private investigators, right? They weren't really working with anyone, but
Hmm.
they would, and it would usually their solution usually ended in death. Um, and then finally, there are watchmen who were Jedi that worked alone on like planets and protected peace on their individual planets. And these were like the outposts. These were more like they would have a part in a government on a planet and that kind of part. Um, so again, these were the these were the three schools of study that the Jedi Knights could go into, and then after you're a Jedi Knight, you became a Jedi Master, and this rank was given to the Jedi Knights who showed their devotion to the Order. It was not a fast process at all. Um, you served as a knight longer than any role before. Um, and these were the only Jedi that were allowed to serve on the Jedi Council, except for one notable exception being Anakin. Um, that ended pretty poorly when he didn't become a Jedi Master. um, and Jedi Masters were were free
I
to
still don't
pursue.
get why they didn't just do it.
Yeah. Jedi Masters were free to pursue their own paths of study. They could do pretty much anything they wanted within reason, because they're only subjected to the orders of the Council and the Grand Master. They could do anything else they wanted. And the Grand Master was the oldest and wisest Jedi. They would oversee the Jedi Order, and this could be held at multiple people. This could be held by multiple people at once. Um, and to complete the circle of the Jedi training, the Grand Master, the best of them all, would teach, kind of humble themselves and teach the younglings about the ways of the Jedi. There is a lot of times in the animated series, but all of them where oh yeah, sorry, Yoda's not here. He's out training the younglings. Um, and obviously Yoda held this for a long time. um, I don't remember if whatever his name, last name Porter, from the books held it. I'm pretty sure he did for a while. Eagle Porter, that's his name. I'm pretty sure he
Porter
was the
Angle is his name.
Grandmaster for a little while. Um, but obviously, Yoda was around for a while. Um,
Yeah, Yoda was
all,
the Grandmaster for hundreds of years.
yep. Um, like I said, this is pretty similar to the Sith one, but what we didn't really talk about with the Sith was artifacts, and what do you have about those?
So yeah, that's honestly one of the things that I wish we would have done with the Sith, and at some point I will bring it back up. Some of the Sith artifacts, but I have some Jedi artifacts that are like most notable, most powerful, either like through the force ability that it has or like its meaning in the galaxy. He's not actually an artifact, but Hu Yang, he's been around since the year 25,020. He's only 5 years younger than the Jedi Orders himself. So I'm just going to punch him in there. But the first actual artifact that I have is the Jedi text, which we see in the sequel trilogy, where uh, Luke sets that little hut on fire or that
Yeah.
tree on fire, and they're like, "Oh no, we lost the text," but Rey ends up saving them. That's kind of what I talked about earlier with the Jedi having a contingency plan. Those texts essentially contained everything that they needed to restart the Jedi Order, and it's like the base teachings and some history and how to do different things in the Force. And Yoda even said that she knew everything in there and
Yeah.
more. Um, but it is cool because it's a physical thing, and it's not just one little piece. It's like 8 different books, and they're
So
very, very beautiful. Honestly,
was it force locked at all, like a holocron, where you had
no,
to
it
use the
wasn't. So
force? It was
those
just
were
a
just
book.
books.
Okay.
They were just books because they were
Cool.
meant to be read by people who weren't adept enough in the Force. I do understand that one of them had glyphs in it, so that if you did know how to use the Force properly, you could read more things than what was in the book. But
Oh.
that's almost like there was just extra pages that you had to use the Force to unlock.
Okay.
The other one being the other artifact being a holocron. Um, in Star Wars, they use like data disks and stuff to store information, but that was essentially the Jedi way to store very sensitive information, like we've talked before, like you've seen in Jedi Fallen Order, where Cal has to unlock the Jedi holocron, and it turns out it's got a list of names of force sensitive
Yep.
potentials in the galaxy. So holocrons were basically secure data disks that only the Jedi or a Force user can open.
We see it in Rebels too a lot.
Yep. The other one that I have here is Jedi credits. So Jedi actually had their own system of credits. It wasn't used for like purchasing things per se. It was more like the way that the military uses challenge coins, like, hey, I respect you, here's a coin. Or it was almost like, hey, if you really need help, you give somebody one of these and we'll come running. That kind of a thing.
Okay.
Um, Another artifact would have been Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber. It had come to be the symbol of balance in the galaxy. Um, the last person to have used it was uh, Rey Skywalker, but it is a very physical representation of the Skywalker legacy and like what he did, not only like to the galaxy as a whole, like before he destroyed it and everything, but he did bring balance to the Force, and
Yep.
because of that, it's an artifact. Another one is, again, we see it in the Jedi. I believe it was Battlefront 2, the campaign, where they find Luke uses a star compass, and that's how he is able to get to Octo. It functions very similar to a Sith Wayfinder, only
Okay.
there isn't two of them, right? There was no limit to the amount of these things that were created. It's just that we only know of one of them being used.
Okay.
And that's why it was so hard for people to find Luke, because once he used this thing, it's almost like you didn't exist. You just went to where you needed to go. And that was really cool. The other one, that we'll talk about here in a minute is Kyber crystals. Kyber crystals are synonymous with the Jedi Order and their importance to their lightsabers, and not only that, the fact that Kyber crystal, for some reason, has an inherent force resonance where, like we talked about with the dark saber, it can have its own personality. The crystal is the crystal chooses the user. Yes, you can just go in. You could go into the ice planet Ilum and just crack a crystal off the wall and use it. Sure, but if you find the one that's meant for you, it like your connection with your saber is better. It's easier to use. It's easier to train with. That's why even when they're in a completely different, it's like Thor's hammer. If you're connected to it, it's easier to recall. The other one that we see in the Mandalorian show is the Seeing Stone. It was generally used to boost a Force user's energy and allow them to see and feel very far off into the galaxy. It's almost like a signal booster for the Force. Grogu used it to send a message, but it would also be used by like members of the council to reach out into the farther reaches of space and see if someone needed help, find younglings that they didn't know about, stuff like that.
R.I.P. Starlight Beacon.
Yeah. The last one that I had, well, I guess I have two more. Sorry. Yoda's Geimer stick. It was a gift that he was given by the Wookiees on Kashyyyk, and it's like his little cane that he has that he walks around with. It wasn't just a cane; it had like medicinal properties, so that like as he walked around, it would make his joints feel better. It would
Mm.
heal him if it needed to, and if for some reason he was stranded somewhere, he could eat small pieces of it and stay nourished for a long time. And then once Yoda dies, that then turns into an artifact. And my last one is the Jedi robes. The Jedi robes, no one specifically their robes, just that it's such a symbol of the Jedi, like these warrior monks, right? That
Yeah.
they're clad in these fancy robes, and there's temple robes, there's outpost robes, there's
Yep.
you're just a Jedi living his life kind of a thing. Um, it was such a symbol for the Jedi, and it was a very powerful moment when Darth Vader strikes down Obi-Wan, and all that falls to the ground are his robes.
Yeah.
It's like the physical reminder of the Order is always here, but you come and go, but the Force remains.
Yep.
So I thought that was cool. And then going with that, I would love to talk about like lightsaber building and Kyber crystals.
Okay. Um, so there are two parts to a lightsaber, the hilt and the blade. The hilt is the handle, right? Um, and then the blade is the actual lightsaber. The hilt has multiple parts. There's a power cell, which actually is the part that holds the kyber crystal in it. Um, there's a focusing ring that focuses the energy to the top of the saber. And it does this by aligning the kyber crystal like at an angle. If this part is even slightly off, the whole saber, the crystal will crack and the saber will explode. So this is the most important part of your saber that you have to get just right. Probably Hu Yang had some scary experiences with this part of this of the
Mm-hmm.
lightsaber. Um, and then the blade emitter takes the energy and forms it most of the time into a cylindrical shape. Um, and then um, that there's just like that's just like the hole in the top of the lightsaber, right? And then
Yeah.
you have a button to turn it on, um, or a wheel, like on Rey's most recent lightsaber that we saw in the last movie,
Yeah.
um, and many others. You can really activate with if you're creative enough with anything. Um, a hilt can be made out of any material that can withstand the energy that Kyber releases. That's why we mostly see metal. But it is, even if it is you're made out of metal, like it is most of the time, it is usually customized a lot and has meaning to the wielder. There isn't a big example of when we don't see it with metal. Is there's a the Clone Wars episode when they go to Ilum and they do the gathering, which we'll talk about in a second. Um, a Wookiee makes his thing out of the wood from a Bylark tree, which is as strong as metal. But it gave him a connection to his lightsaber. He spent a lot of time trying to pick it, and then he realized, yeah, I'll make it out of wood. Um, that's everything about the hilt. A few different parts. There's a lot about the kyber crystal though. Um, Kyber crystals are naturally grown. Um, they no one figured out how to artificially grow them, and they're force attuned crystals. They are naturally attuned to the force. Um, it was somewhat alive and could feel pain. And this is how the Sith turned uh, their crystals red. They would show the crystal all of their negative emotions, and it wouldn't be able to handle all this stuff. All the negativity that the Sith is showing it, and it would bleed red. Um, and light side users could go and heal a corrupted crystal, which we'll talk about later. Um, it's most notably found on Ilum, which is where all the Jedi younglings went to find their Kyber crystals. And this is where the gathering happened. On Ilum, in the Crystal Cave, is where the Jedi initiates would go to make their lightsaber and find their Kyber crystal. um, in the Crystal Cave, they would hit obstacles, physical or mental, to show that they're worthy of a Kyber crystal, of their own crystal that is attuned to themselves. I don't want to go too deep into the gathering because there are 3 Clone Wars episodes about it. Season 5, episodes 6 to 9, if you want to watch them. They were some of my favorite episodes. I loved watching it. It was very cool to learn about.
Yes, and it was
also,
very like informative and easy to understand from like like a child could watch it and understand what's happening.
yeah. There's also, believe it or not, a Minecraft map about it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a Minecraft map. I kind of forgot about it right now, but yeah, you can buy a Minecraft map where you go to Ilum and you make your own saber. You find your own crystal. And it's like, I watched a video about it. It's like a very in-depth system. Like, you can pick your own lightsaber parts and stuff and customize it. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. So a crystal chose their wielder, and the wielder would hear the song of the Force emitting from it. That's how they knew, and it would like shine with light and stuff. So that's how they kind of knew their own crystal. They were attracted to it. And once they find their crystal and hold it, the crystal would immediately change colors, and that would determine the color of their blade. There are lots of different colors. We're going to start off with the Jedi, the most common ones, blue and green. Blue is the color, or it's the most common color of the Jedi sabers, and it represents righteousness and bravery. This is why the Guardians would be blue, right? They were very brave people. And then green is the second most common color of the Jedi, and it usually represents a wise Jedi like Yoda and eventually Luke. He had his one turned green as well. That's why the non-lightsaber smarter, path Jedi would have their green crystal. And then there's purple. Purple is Mace Windu's lightsaber, and that's pretty much it. His is purple, no one else is. Samuel L. Jackson, the actor that plays Mace Windu, made a request for a purple lightsaber because it's his favorite color. He did this on a lot of different projects he did. He tried to implement purple. There is something about it in Legends, but not canon, that states it's the use of the light and the dark side because red and blue equals purple, right?
Yeah.
So that's shown in the Legends stuff.
Yeah,
And
the
then,
only other record of someone using a purple lightsaber is Revan before he officially turned to the dark side.
who? Sorry, I missed it.
Revan, he was one of the most powerful force wielders to ever exist, and I believe his journey is portrayed in Knights of the Old Republic, the video game.
Yeah.
Look him up. We'll be talking about him eventually, but he had a purple lightsaber. He actually had the single most, I don't want to say exclusive, but like he had the rarest lightsaber that ever was because it only showed up to a true being in a time of galactic crisis. Kind of like the Chosen One, but it was a lightsaber.
Cool.
He didn't know that he had it. He found it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the best part. He had no idea that he was the one.
Funny.
He was chosen.
The next lightsaber color is yellow. This was used exclusively by Jedi guards, or by Jedi Temple guards. Sorry. And I mentioned that earlier with the Sentinels, and but some of them would choose to be Jedi guards and they'll get their lightsabers. But the most notable exception being in the last movie, Rey's lightsaber is yellow. And I'm really excited. Okay, we need to have a quick discussion about why Rey's lightsaber is yellow. Okay, so Alex and I were driving. I don't even. Oh, the Six Flags Magic Mountain. We were listening to a podcast, and they mentioned that Rey's lightsaber has 2 Kyber crystals in it, and we went back and watched when she ignites her lightsaber at the end. And I need everyone listening to go watch this, okay? You need to pull up the clip. At the end when she ignites her lightsaber, she has the wheel, right, that she moves with her thumb.
Mm-hmm.
It first ignites blue, and then green, and then yellow. Meaning she had Luke's blue lightsaber and Leia's green lightsaber, Kyber crystals, in her one crystal. Mm-hmm. and that together, both those Kyber crystals made the color yellow. Which is, oh man, like I made sure before I wrote this down. I went frame by frame again. You see it ignite a little tiny blue light, and then it goes big green. This is in the hilt, and then the blade ignites yellow. This is one of the best discoveries we've
specifically
ever made.
You see it when she scrolls the wheel over.
Yes.
That's where you see it. So if you guys want to go look, it's at the end of the movie. When she flicks her thumb, you got to do it really, really slow because it's literally frame by frame.
Yep.
But yeah, you can see both colors.
Yep. And Alex and I liked it because it's at one click where it goes blue, green, then yellow. So like, can you use one Kyber crystal? Can you use the other Kyber crystal? Can you use them both? That's where
my theory, like she's used to using the staff, right? So can she choose both colors or both crystals, one emitter, or is it one crystal, one emitter, and then she flicks it again, and then there's another side, so she has a double-sided lightsaber staff, like a traditional temple guardian would.
Yep.
But would one side be a different color? Would they both be yellow? Like,
yeah, you had a story about a Sith Lord who used the power of 2 Kybers, didn't you? And like was plasma.
Yeah. I believe we talked about that during the Sith episode. But there was a guy who basically overcharged one of his lightsabers and made it a plasma crystal.
So that brings up the thing where she had to know enough about the knowledge of lightsabers and Kyber crystal to. You saw her ignite it, right? Using both those Kyber crystals.
She was a scrapper though. She knew how to build stuff.
She had the knowledge to power manage 2 Kyber crystals. You know, that's insane. That's crazy. I hope they show it in the movie of the power of her lightsaber. Right? I don't know if they will, or if it'll just be a fun Easter egg for people who know about it. The next color is orange. This is seen first in Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. There's an option to make it orange, and then it's also seen on Balin's lightsaber. He wields an orange lightsaber. Like the purple, it is legend that it's a saber it's a wielder who's not aligned with the Sith or the Jedi, which we do see on Balin, and I forget her name. It's Shin or Sheen or something like that.
It's Shin.
Shin. But we don't know anything else about it except for that. We have very little evidence. And then we have white, which happens when you purify red crystals. If you read the Ahsoka book, I don't remember the author, but if you read the Ahsoka book, it's in there. It's also in Tales of the Jedi, the last episode, a very abridged version and not accurate to how it is in the book. The book itself wasn't great, but the last 100 pages where she does end up purifying her lightsaber. She kills the 6th brother and purifies his crystals during the Imperial occupation on, I'm going to say Rada. That's how I said it in my head when I was reading it. And then the next one's going to be red. We know everything about red. I talked about it earlier. The Sith bleeds into the crystal. And then we have black, which is only seen in the Darksaber. And you should go watch our episode about that. What was that, 2 episodes ago now? Where we talked
2 episodes ago. And we also have a short out about that on YouTube Shorts and TikTok.
Yeah, so we did a full episode on the Rise and Fall of Mandalore if you want to go watch that. And then finally, we have 3 colors that we don't know anything about: cyan, indigo, and magenta. They're showed in Jedi Survivor, the video game. And they're canon because the games canon. We just don't know anything about them or don't see them anywhere else.
I kind of just feel like it was just color selectiveness, honestly.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, that's all I have on lightsaber and Kyber Crystals, and that's all we have for the episode today. Unless you have any last final comments.
No, just guys, tune in next week when we talk some more about the Jedi with some history and some notable figures that we have from the Jedi Order. And again, if you want to know more about the Jedi religion, go look up the website. It's the temple of the Jedi Order.org. It's very, very interesting stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know it was like an actual thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um. Yeah. So we'll go more to the Jedi, more of the history next week. You can find all of our socials at DS Revelations. We're on Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. We post YouTube Shorts and TikToks every excuse me, every Friday and Monday. I think yes, every Friday and Monday, and episodes on Wednesday. Except this week we posted one on Tuesday when when the news of the Mandalorian came out. So if you want faster news, you can go watch our YouTube Shorts and TikTok as well. Um, you can find me on Twitter at the Jonathan J. Where can we find you at?
My Twitter is at Darth Pauling.
All right, that's all we have, and we'll see you guys next week for more on the Jedi.